Students at a Catholic school are upset that kids are being forced to read the Bible. They think it's unfair and politically incorrect. Hey, as somebody who grew up Catholic, I'm just stunned that the Catholics are reading the Bible at all. I'm Dr. Duke, he's Alex, and this is The Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Katie is off being a mom, so Alex Newman is joining us. He is the Katie of today. Today, we head to Chicago, where students at a prominent Catholic university are actually complaining that they had to read the Bible at a Catholic university. I mean, what happened to the, if you don't like it, just don't go? Notice the entitlement. You think justice is coming about because of all of this. You think all of this bigotry and discrimination and segregation that's being pushed by social justice activists, critical race theory gurus. You know, the only thing you're doing, A, is one, making people hate each other again, and number two, entitling certain spoiled brat kids like these children at the university. It's stunning. It's a Catholic university. You're reading the Bible in one class, or biblical principles bleed into many of the courses you take. Who makes you go there? Do you really think your non-Christian diversity is so crucial at a Catholic school that the world can't live without you? Meanwhile, almost every other non-Christian school and university in the country hates the Bible. What are you doing there exactly?
Obviously I'm not a student of color, but I am Jewish. And we do read foundational texts, with Genesis. But the reading of Genesis and a lot of that is done from a very Christian perspective, in my opinion, without recognizing other interpretations or traditions, and kind of lumping things into a Judeo-Christian kind of thing.
As someone that has not grown up in a Christian household, even though we were told to read it as a text to reflect the historical value of the reading, and not just in a religious context, it's extremely unfamiliar to me. However, it gives students that are Christian a very unfair advantage, considering they've had years of experience talking about the concepts.
So I didn't grow up, the young lady, you didn't grow up in a ancient Greek and Roman household either. Are you okay reading the Odyssey? You didn't grow up in a 19th century Russian home. Were we allowed to teach you Dostoevsky? I mean, what is the matter with you? And, this whining. Some kids already read the books that I have to read. It's not fair. Not fair to who? You're really upset that kids have read things that you haven't read? I mean, this is where we are with university. And the first young woman. Well, you're Jewish, honey. Raise your hand and give them all a Jewish interpretation. Really? It's that hard? You would think, and here's the great lie. I guarantee you she's a secular Jew who's never sat down and read the Torah at all. Because if all you're complaining about is a bunch of rednecks in Chicago think that the book of Genesis was written by Christians, why don't you disabuse the yokels? Why don't you just raise your little Jewish hand, honey, and say, hey, as a Jewish woman, notice what she had to make clear. I'm not a person of color. I realize that on the victimhood list, I'm still considered white. Nevertheless, I'm Jewish. She said, okay, if I were sitting in that classroom interpreting Genesis from a Christian lens, I would be very fascinated if you raised your hand and said, well, let me give you some perspective from the Jewish faith. Isn't that the point of having you on campus? Is the point of having young Jewish girls like you on campus at a Catholic university, is the point of that to actually get rid of the biblical perspective of Catholics because you're Jewish? Or is it giving you an opportunity to tell the monolithically Catholic institution what you think as somebody who's not Catholic?
It comes back to what we discussed last time I was up in Wisconsin, Duke. It's only biblical religion that faces these kinds of attacks. Nobody would ever dream, a Christian or a Jew, going into a madrasa and saying, oh, how come you're making me read the Quran? I mean, it's just self-evidently ridiculous. You can teach any other religion in a government school, and we've established that in California now. They've got the model studies curriculum where we're going to pay homage to the Aztec demon gods of cannibalism and human sacrifice. You can teach them Hinduism, you can make them do yoga, you can make them do Buddhist mindfulness exercises, you can take them to a mosque and have them recite the Shahada, but you cannot under any circumstances tolerate the Bible. And I think this is just becoming so clear, and now it's even, as we just saw here, even at Catholic and evangelical universities, there's supposed to be something controversial about reading the foundational text of these religions.
The second girl, the non-Jewish girl, she goes on to say, for me personally, I had such a hard time reading the Bible, and it was not an experience I would ever have again, considering how it was taught. Well, how open-minded. Mm-hmm. I had to put in, I love this, I had to put in maybe 10 times more effort than peers had to understand the basics of the test. I got news for you, ma'am. I had to put in 10 times much more work to get math done. Math was a language that was alien to me. I didn't get it, and I didn't get people who got it. Can you imagine me sitting in my math class and saying, my required math class, and saying, are you kidding me? Why are you teaching math from the perspective of math people? Why are you forcing me to learn math? Who doesn't like math and doesn't understand math? I got to work harder at it. You should teach me something non-mathematical in the name of math. I would never study math again because the teacher taught it from a mathematical perspective. Child, grow up.
Yeah, and there's another thing here too, Duke. I remember very well when I was 18 or so, I was going through, this kind of internal struggle. Who am I? What do I believe? What is truth? What is the nature of reality? And when I was confronted with that, my reaction was, hey, I've got to find out. I've got to pursue truth. And so I went down to the library and I got Muslim books, I got Hindu books, I got Buddhist books, I got Shinto books, and then I got some Christian books. And I looked at them all and I read them all and I said, wow, interesting that all these people believe these different things. And eventually, through that pursuit of truth, I ended up arriving at the core, at the realization that Christianity and the Bible were true. But you have to look at all the other things to be able to arrive at that conclusion by looking for truth. And what these children, and I refuse to pretend like they are adults, they are overgrown children, revealed to me is something that now has just become, I think, dominant in our culture. Not only are we not interested in finding the truth, we hate even the process of anything approaching finding truth. It's very, very dangerous, and it's going to lead us to very dangerous places.
Like I said at the beginning of the segment, it's entitlement. You are breeding entitled children, spoiled brats, the kind of kids that are anti-humanist, anti-open-minded, anti-critical thinking. They are rigid. They are censorious. They're little grand inquisitors. It has got to stop. And I got to need to you Catholic schools, you Christian schools out there, over the last 30 years, you've been compromising one thing after another to make kids like these happy. Is it really worth the tuition of kids like this to unmake what you believe in the name of what exactly?
Who knew that when a university hired a supposed Christian professor to teach Baptist studies,
a minister,
yeah, right, in air quotes, that they would actually believe that evangelical Christianity is the greatest threat to human existence and that it must be laid waste. This is the remark made by Professor of Theology and Baptist Studies at Duke University Divinity School, Professor Curtis Freeman, and he has since deleted it, and now he claims it was taken out of context, but it is so revealing, Duke.
This is unbelievable. This is a seminary. This is not just Duke University hiring an English professor who rejected his Christianity and now hates it. This is a guy who's a seminarian. This is a minister, an ordained minister, whose job it is to teach people who are going to enter the ministry in the Baptist faith, which is not the most conservative of the faiths, right? And so his argument is what? once he made these tweets, it was all over, right? So Rod Dreher, he actually calls this guy, Curtis Freeman, is a Duke Divinity School professor and a liberal Baptist. Tweet is now deleted, but look what he has to say here. And imagine if he had said this about Islam or Judaism. Worse, evangelical Christianity is the greatest threat to existence today. It must be laid waste. Here's my question for liberal pastor Freeman. You really think evangelical Christianity is worse than global warming? Because if you think
systemic racism, that makes him systemically racist.
He argues that evangelical Christianity is systemically
racist.
But let's get him on the global warming thing, right? Because clearly the single greatest threat to humanity, according to people who believe what you believe, sir, is the mythological religion, which you would be more suited to, of global warming and climate change. So the problem here is interesting. Now go ahead to look at his returns quote. He's trying to be very pastoral there. Thanks for calling out my excessive rhetoric. That's him saying, I'm sorry. Notice that the Christian doesn't say, I'm sorry.
No.
The Christian doesn't say, I'm sorry. He acknowledges his fault, but doesn't say he's sorry. Sounds a little bit more like a Pharisee to me than a Christian. Thanks for calling out my excessive rhetoric. Not, I'm sorry for tarring people with a racist brush. No, let me try to be more clear. I am concerned about white American evangelical culture that is focused on 5 fundamentals. Guns are good. Really? This is a Christian thing? How is this a Christian evangelical thing? Vaccines are bad. Science is bunk. Do you really, pastor, believe that? Do you really believe that all evangelicals are Seventh-day Adventists who don't get blood transfusions? Do you really believe that? That news is fake and that black lives don't matter. Do you really believe that? You say these are dangerous. You, sir, are slurring your own religion. You are slurring religion. You are projecting on it all the buzzwords of the progressive left. What is your evidence for any of those things? Please, let's hear it. Because people are a lot of things. Why is it their Christianity that makes you do that? Why is it the fact that they're undereducated rednecks from the South? Why is it the religion? We're seeing this more and more with this Christian nationalist stuff, Alex. Christian nationalists are simply people who take the Bible seriously.
And love their country.
And it has nothing to do with QAnon. It has nothing to do with gun ownership necessarily. Has nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. It had absolutely, he goes on to say this, Pastor, his one piece of evidence is the storming of the Capitol building.
The mostly peaceful protest.
But again, give me one thing that Christianity had to do with the storming of the Capitol on July 6th? January
Absolutely
6th?
Nothing.
Was anybody carrying Christian flags?
No.
Were there crusaders there with the Vatican flag? No. Were people shouting Allah Akbar? Excuse me, not Allah Akbar. Were they shouting Jesus is good? All right. I mean, were they doing that? No evidence. Christianity was never mentioned. Nobody broke out rosaries. They didn't break out in hymns. Nobody started singing Michael row the boat ashore. None of that happened in the so-called insurrection. So how do you, sir, blame it on Christianity?
It's very sad. It's very, very sad. I actually feel pity for this so-called professor. The hatred that he has in his heart is very sad. The hatred that he has for his supposedly fellow Christians. And really, it's, I think, a sign of the times. And it's scary that this is the direction things are going into.
I would suggest, sir, that the sympathy that you have to evince should be much more to the students who are learning from this guy.
That too.
Can you guys imagine what this guy's class is like? Now, with all due respect, if you're sending your kid to a seminary to become a minister at Duke University, I'm stunned to hear that they still have a seminary there. That seminary, I'll simply say this. The fact that Duke University actually has a seminary, if Pope Francis, the communist, were born in America, he would have graduated from the seminary at Duke University.
So the little snowflakes at the University of North Texas were deeply offended by some Easter eggs with Bible verses on them. Pretty incredible. They called for these eggs to be trashed and stomped on because the University of North Texas Young Conservatives put some Bible verses on them. And it just goes to show you that the Bible is true, right? They hate the truth. They hate God. They hated Christ first, and so they hate anything to do with it. But it's amazing how much it's coming out of the closet on college campuses, Duke.
Yeah, I'm going to go on record right now, Alex, and I'm going to urge you and everybody out there to join me. Let's stop calling them snowflakes. Why? Snowflakes are gentle and delicate. They are individual. No two are alike, right? They are cool. Let's call them instead cinder blocks.
Cinder blocks,
Right?
I love it.
They're gruff and they're ugly and they're harsh and they're uniform and they're collective. So for this moment forward, and I'm going to TM Dr. Duke Pesta, they are now cinder blocks, not snowflakes. And this is why. So what? A group of Christian kids put together some plastic Easter eggs. They put some candy. They put some verses from the Bible, or even non-biblical quotes they put in there that they found uplifting. They left the Easter eggs all around campus. I'm not even sure why the other kids are destroying them, because technically Easter egg isn't Christian.
Right.
I mean, it's not even a Christian thing. All right, they're made up Easter bunny stuff. So what you're really attacking here is the Easter bunny. You're attacking paganism. I thought attacking paganism and Wiccanism and all that stupid stuff, I thought that was unpolitically correct. But they're historically so stupidly and ignorant that they don't even know that. These cinder blocks, these cinder blockheads. And read some of the details from this about what happened when the students found out that these conservative groups had left these Easter eggs.
Yeah, they lost their minds. And so you had screenshots from their social media accounts, time to stomp some eggs, underneath the post about some Easter eggs with Bible verses inside of them. What kind of mad hatred would cause you to give up free candy because you're so
Well, there was no
upset?
candy in them.
There was jelly.
I think that's the bait and switch, wasn't it?
Oh, I thought there was jelly beans inside.
One atheist mom, literally an atheist mom, weighed in. Her college kid, her 20-year-old, called mommy and said, these dangerous Easter eggs are all across campus. And mommy said, couldn't they have just put candy in the eggs instead of all of that messaging? Wouldn't that have been a nicer thing to do? And then after the moms and dads got involved for their precious little cinder block kids, then the students joined in. And as the article tells us, but then the students joined in the criticism and took it to a whole nother level. Quote, they were trying to see who could throw the most eggs away and who would stomp on the most of them.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
One of the organizers said that she got a message from a fellow student urging her to
commit
kill
suicide.
herself.
What happened to the radical leftist anti-bullying stuff? If you told
the tolerance.
you literally told any other kid who believed anything else on a college campus to go kill yourself, you would be guilty on a college campus of a Title IX violation. You are decimating. You're guilty. If that student hurts herself, that you say that you're responsible for this. But of course, you're shouting it at a conservative kid, so nothing's going to happen. It goes on to say, right, that these in addition to taunting the young conservatives that their eggs would be trashed, some students accuse them of littering. Yeah. How's that for the Barney Fife cinder block understanding of law? One person joked about capture the egg contest, and another suggested a prize for anyone who could trash the most. And so we saw at University of Texas, a conservative group put up crosses to commemorate lives lost to abortion. Took all day to do it, 1,200 I think it was. By the time morning rolled around next day, they were all gone.
Yeah.
Right? This is what you're breeding on college campuses. You're not breeding woke kids. You're not breeding, no matter what you think of the Bible verses, the way these progressive kids handled it should make you very scared for the future. They crush, they kill, and they destroy, Will Robinson. That's all they can do. Time again to compare what happens on college campuses, places like Texas schools where they stomp on Easter eggs because they have Christian messages in it, and what the great Christian tradition actually gave us. If those spoiled brat kids spent more time studying the great minds of Christian thinkers and less time listening to left-wing talking points, maybe they'd get an education. So this week is all St. Augustine week, where we're looking at one of the first great fathers of the church, one of the first great theologians, one of the first great explicators of what the great mysteries and sacraments of Christianity actually mean in an intellectual content. So take a look at this quote from St. Augustine. We have actually 3 quotes from him, all of which are going to make you think. He speaks the first quote. This is from his Confessions, his rigorous interrogation of his own life. The Confessions of Augustine. It's the most important. It's the most famous book that he wrote. In the Confessions, he does a deep self-psychological evaluation about what his sinful life before God was, what his life like was as a pagan professor of classic Greek literature, and how empty his voracious sexual appetite. We know that before he found God, Augustine was absolutely addicted to visiting the brothels of the Roman Empire. Of course, prostitution was legal. It was considered perfectly morally ethical in the Roman Empire, and he was devoted. He was addicted to visiting the prostitutes. And after he found the God of Christianity, he wrote the Confessions as a way of purging his heart of all of those addictions. How about this first quote? "You have made us for yourself, O Lord. You made us for no other reason but for you. You made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you." Nothing in this, you didn't make us for this world. You didn't make us for money or career. You didn't make us for politics or activism. You first and foremost made us for you. That means we will never be happy until we find you. How about the second quote? "Love the sinner and hate the sin." How many of us have heard that over and over again? And how many of us remember that it was St. Augustine in the Opera Omnia who said it? Love the sinner. Love your fellow human being. Something the left will not do, by the way. They consider us sinners and racists. They don't love us. They want to see us done away with. They want us canceled. This is the Christian response. Love the sinner, but hate the sin. And how about the last one from the Confessions again? "The punishment of every disordered mind is its own disorder." I would talk about these college kids we've talked about on this show today and their professors. The punishment of a disordered mind, a mind that turns good things into bad things, that has to stomp on Easter eggs because it suggests Christianity. The punishment for a disordered mind is a disordered mind. That the suffering is your own childish, empty-headed, disordered thoughts and behavior. That we used to call it sin, and that's exactly what you're guilty of. All right, just a quick reminder to please download our brand new Freedom Project Media app. We got a lot of great content, including 18 new shows every single week. All you have to do is, it's free, search Freedom Project and make sure you allow notifications on the app once you download it. And if you're a fan of the show, please consider a one-time tax-deductible donation to support our Patriot Club, and we will send you our signature tumbler. Visit patriotclub.us. That's patriotclub.us. Now, we want to take a quick moment to show some love to our Patriot Club members. Today, we'd like to give a shout out to Mark from Haines City, Florida. And that wraps up the show. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. He's Alex. Until next time, stay away from the University of Texas, my friends.